Breaking tonight, the plot in the Fusion GPS case thickens tonight as Senator Dianne Feinstein of the Judiciary Committee made a unilateral decision to release the transcript from closed-door interviews with Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson. Feinstein said that it would clear up, quote, misinformation in the news. So did it. Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry, live at the White House for us tonight with more. Hi, Ed.
Martha, good to see you. Senator Feinstein justifying this unilateral release by saying that there's been misinformation out there and that Republicans are beating up on Fusion GPS to distract from the Russian collusion story. But allies of President Trump here at the White House tonight saying there's still no evidence of Russia collusion with the Trump camp. And actually, this transcript raises new questions about Fusion GPS and some of its allies, like Christopher Steele, that former British spy who helped gather the unverified dirt on the president. Last week, Republican Charles Grassley, who's furious that Feinstein released this transcript, sent a criminal referral for Steele to the Justice Department, suggesting he lied to federal officials about his contacts with the media. Now, in his private testimony to the Senate Judiciary Panel last summer, Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson said Steele went to the FBI in July 2016, the same month that the Russia probe began, with some info. Simpson, though, suggested the FBI had a human source inside the Trump world to back up some of the claims in the dossier, saying, quote, they believed Chris's information might be credible because they had other intelligence that indicated the same thing, and one of those pieces of intelligence was a human source from inside the Trump organization. Unclear whether that's the meaning that Trump campaign official George Papadopoulos, who has pled guilty to lying about his Russia contacts in the special counsel probe, had with an Australian ambassador. More important, perhaps, Simpson's lawyer testified that at least one person wound up dead when some media organizations published info from the dossier. Quote, Simpson wants to be very careful to protect his sources. Somebody's already been killed as a result of the publication of this dossier, and no harm should come to anybody related to this honest work. That may explain why the FBI director, Christopher Wray, has been very careful talking about this. Watch.
The House Intelligence Committee has requested documents from you and other government officials from the so-called Steele dossier. Why have you failed to produce these documents?
In many instances, we are dealing with very, very dicey questions of sources and methods, which is the lifeblood of foreign intelligence and for our liaison relationships with our foreign partners.
As for Simpson and Fusion GPS, he and a colleague wrote a recent New York Times op-ed headlined "The Republicans' Fake Investigations," saying that they were all about transparency, yet this new transcript shows Simpson declined to answer questions about how he was paid. Since last summer's testimony, Republicans have gotten bank records showing Clinton's presidential campaign and the DNC paid for this dirt through an intermediary, Democratic attorney Mark Elias. Yet when Simpson was pressed by the committee in private about whether he was a Democratic-linked firm, he said he didn't think so. Martha?
Ed, thank you very much. Here now, Congressman Jim Jordan. He sits on both the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees. Congressman, good evening. Great to have you here tonight.
Good to be with you.
What did you think, first of all, of Dianne Feinstein's decision to unilaterally release the Simpson transcript?
I leave that up to Senator Feinstein and the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, but what I do know and what I found most interesting about what I've been able to read thus far is the fact that Glenn Simpson said Christopher Steele told him the FBI had another source. How did Christopher Steele know that? Did the FBI tell him? And if they did, why is the FBI telling Christopher Steele, the guy who was paid by Fusion, who was paid by the Clinton campaign, why is the FBI telling Christopher Steele they got another source on this whole Russian investigation? I think that is interesting and something we need to get to the bottom of.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to the larger question of whether or not there was a coordinated effort between these intelligence agencies and perhaps including the FBI and the Clinton campaign to dig up dirt on Donald Trump, right?
Exactly, and I think when you couple what Senator Feinstein released today with the story John Solomon wrote this morning on additional text messages we've now reviewed, where they talk about planning stories. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, in their text message exchange, talk about planning stories with the media to further their narrative. And what was their narrative and what was their plan? It was the insurance policy that was designed to make sure that we can't take the risk the American people are going to elect Donald Trump president. So now this all fits together. So that's what I found most interesting today, is those text messages that John Solomon wrote about, along with what Senator Feinstein released, and how it fits this idea that the FBI was actively planning and orchestrating in a systematic way this idea we're going to generate stories that further our narrative and the plan we have.
Yeah, it's remarkable. We reported on those text messages last. Put them up on the screen so people can see them at home. Lisa Page says the article is out, but hidden behind the paywall. Can't read it. And Peter Strzok goes on to say, boy, that was fast. Wall Street Journal, boy, that was fast. Should I find it? In quotes, as if to suggest that he already knows where it is, and tell the team. With regard to the other revelations here, that someone died as a result of the exposure of this dossier, and that perhaps sources were uncovered, and that someone got angry about that, you know, and perhaps someone was killed as a result. What do you make of that information, Congressman?
I don't know and if that happened, of course, that's terrible, and I hope it didn't. But what I do know is on January 6th, the intelligence community went to Trump Tower and briefed President-elect Trump on the dossier. If you remember, Clapper told James Comey to stay around after the briefing and further brief the president on the dossier. Shortly thereafter, it was leaked to the press, and CNN talked about it, and BuzzFeed printed the entire dossier. I think what happened in that meeting was when the FBI director briefs the president-elect, it gives the dossier legitimacy, and someone leaked out the fact that, oh, the FBI director thought it was important enough to tell the president-elect. Then it's out there. So we hope this didn't happen. But if it did, it seems to me it was because the, then Obama administration briefs the president, and somebody leaks it to to BuzzFeed and to CNN.
So what did you make of the fact that Glenn Simpson says in the transcript that he didn't know anything about the Trump Tower meeting, because Fox News reported over a month ago, I think, I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, that Glenn Simpson saw Natalia Veselnitskaya before and after the meeting that she went to at Trump Tower. But he claimed in the transcript that he was not aware at all of that meeting. In fact, he read about it in the New York Times, and he was stunned. Yeah, well, I mean, look, who are you going to believe? Whose whole business is about taking opposition research, turning it into stories and... Unfortunately, we just lost the feed. You see, it looked like Congressman Jordan froze on the screen there, and unfortunately, we don't have the feed anymore. So it would be great if we can get it back. If not, we'll move on and we'll come back to him at a later time.